Hey guys, getting ready to go on a little road trip here, and I thought it'd be a great idea to make a video of how to kind of prepare yourself or prepare your vehicle for a nice long road trip, just to ensure that you don't have any emergencies, any breakdowns, or anything like that. Let's begin. Okay, very first things I like to check for, because I want this to kind of be for, the everyday person. Very first thing you always check for is your tire tread, okay? You stick your hand in here, and there's a ridge. If you feel that ridge, your tire tread is low. I'll also show you how to make sure that you check it properly as well. And then once you check that tread, assuming your tread is good, you need to check your tire pressure. I'll put a gauge on that so we can see how much pressure we have. But I'll show you a proper way to check a tire, because if you're looking at it from here, it looks perfect, right? Show you something real fast. Now, if you see here, tire tread looks great, right? But if you look on the inside, notice that I have really no tread. When you start seeing this thing kind of get like this, I'm about to hit the cords. This tire has a bad control arm, or this car has a bad control arm, which was throwing my alignment off. So make sure you turn your tire outwards and see if you, because a lot of time tires wear on the inside the fastest. If you see metal cords on your tire, go get your tire changed immediately. If you see cords on your tire, you will break down on your road trip. Now, when you open your front door, a lot of the time you'll have your tire information right here. It'll tell you the size of your tire, and if you see that code, you see that PSI, that's the tire pressure you want your tire to be at. Most cars, it's between 30 and 35 PSI. Let's check it. Got an electric tire pressure gauge right here, and we're going to, and if you look at that, I'm at 24 PSI. I need to put air in these tires. And since I need to put air in these tires, I'll show you how to do it with an electric tire pump. We got our tire situated. Now we got to check the engine bay, okay? My coolant reservoir is right here. If you look down there, you see a full cold mark. My coolant is to that full cold mark. Make sure you're there. No coolant, your car will overheat. Not good. If your car still has power steering, notice I have the engine not on. We want this cold. Pop this cap off, and you see a hot and a cold mark. The fluid is up to the cold mark, so we're good on power steering fluid. Check your brake fluid. I can see the level from right here. We're good on there. Another thing to check, this is probably the most important thing in the engine bay you want to look for, okay? Check that serpentine belt. I've seen a handful of people break down because their serpentine belt either completely shredded off, popped off, or wore out. You can check it by, if you look here, look at the ridges. You should not see if you see a lot of cracking, like really bad, sometimes you might even see it like the belt kind of be shredding apart. Get your belt replaced, you will break down. All right, now we gotta check our oil. Always want to have oil when you're going on a long journey. And if you look at that, I am to the full mark. Beautiful. That's what we want to see. And put that back in there. If you're not sure, clean it off, put it back in, pull it out. Next, check your coolant hose, okay? Notice it's not like bubbling, it's not rusty looking, not cracking. If you see it like has like big bubbles in it, or you see a lot of rust or something, these could split open. I don't really ever see this happen anymore. I've only seen this happen one time, but I'll show you why people don't like taking German cars on long road trips. If you notice here, it's a straight rubber hose connected to a metal pipe with a metal band clamp. I'll show you how German cars work. If you look here, this is a radiator hose. It has the coolant, the rubber coolant pipe. However, you see this band, it connects to a plastic fitting. So if you see here, this is plastic, this is plastic, this is all plastic. It has a locking clip that connects to the rubber hose. People don't like taking German cars on road trips because when these fail, these can crack. They have a seal in here that can leak. Sometimes they can just split open. So what happens is, if you have a radiator hose leak, you can't fix this on the road. That's why people don't like taking German cars for long road trips. So make sure, I'm not saying you can't, but it's the reason why people don't like to. These are more prone to having failure than a normal radiator hose, all right? Is your battery, okay? A lot of people sleep on this again. Now, you can get a multimeter and check your voltage. Most people ain't gonna do that. So I'll tell you what you can do. Try and check the date. There's a production date on almost every battery. A lot of times, some people will take the stickers off. I recommend you don't. Most batteries, average batteries last about 3 years. Really good batteries, like all new batteries, last around 5. It says 09 2022. I think it's actually 09 2024. I'm only 2 years old, so this battery should be good. But if you don't know for certain, when you turn that car, you try to crank it and it goes come, like it turns up slow, chances are your battery is weak. Get that changed so you don't have a breakdown. You go somewhere on your trip, your car sits overnight and it don't start. Bad day, especially if you're on a road trip. Next thing you want to make sure you have is make sure you have a spare tire. Don't know if mine will be able to come off, but just make sure you have it. Most cars sit in the trunk. You can put air in it just to make sure it's ready to go. Here's another reason why I usually don't recommend taking German cars on road trips. A lot of them don't have spare tires. So if you have a complete tire failure, you are stuck. Another reason why I don't like taking German cars on long road trips. Now, I'm sure you guys are like, well, can we go now? I'm good to go, right? Well, if you have an older vehicle, this is just a precaution I like to take. Pop this open. Make sure you have your jack. Make sure you have something to break the lug nuts. Make sure you keep jumper cables, just in case. Sometimes people leave their light on in their car. The battery's dead in the morning, and you have no way of jumping your car. Always keep jumper cables. And lastly, well, almost lastly, keep a tire pump, which we're about to use to put air in our tires. I like to keep some duct tape in case any kind of a hose breaks. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can put duct tape around the hose and you can get yourself to the nearest mechanic or get yourself back home in a pinch. I like to keep some duct tape on me. And there's one last thing I'll bring to this table before we finish up here. The last thing I recommend investing in is a tire plug kit. Okay, sometimes when you're driving, you get a tire in your nail. You get a nail in your tire. There's nothing you can do about it. So unless you have one of these, you can pull the nail out, put a plug in it, and get back on the road. You can get these for like $5 at any store. They pay for themselves, I promise you. Even if you never use it, it's good to have it. Have a little plier to pull the nail out, and this is great to have. Now we're gonna put air in our tires. This is another one of those devices that pays for themselves. You break down one time. If you ever have to use this even only once, trust me, you will be happy that you have this. So, showing you how this works. You unhook it, you have a ground and a power. Negative goes to negative, power goes to power. I recommend putting the power on first, like that. Negative here. You'll know you have it plugged up when you see your light turn on, okay? Now, this fitting here, this hose, it's like a compression fitting. And make sure you put a collar on, slide the sleeve over the collar. Now we're gonna take this to expand. We're gonna go here. Go right here. And we're gonna spin this on. Just like that. Now before we turn this on, we gotta start the car up because this is gonna use a lot of power. So we want the alternator to be running. Start our car up so that our battery is constantly being charged while we're using it. All right, let's do it. I know it's hard to see because of the LEDs, but we are at about 24 PSI. There's a power button right here. We're gonna flick it on, and this is gonna pump up. When it hits the desired number, it'll stop. Okay. All right. I guess it ain't gonna turn off. So when you're done, it's gonna flick that off. Okay. And we're gonna throw this on there, just to show you. This thing can reach all the way to the back tire while still being in the front. Very useful. One last thing I forgot to mention that's important is if you can, take a look at your brakes, okay? You can't always see them, but I'll show you something. I know it's hard to see, but if you can see those rotors, see how they're kind of grooved up? These are just some crappy brakes that the original owner gave me. But if you see your rotors kind of look like this, usually it's a dead given that your brake pads are kind of wearing out or you're starting to get kind of low. So what you can do here is you can do this, right? Get your phone, put the flashlight on, right? And now you get your phone in here and you stick it in just like this, right? There's a gap. Almost all calipers have like a gap in the middle. You put your phone in there, right? Just like that. And if if you see here, I use my phone's camera. I stuck it in front of the caliper. Most calipers have a cutout. If you see here, those two big heavy pieces of steel, that is the rotor. If you see that little slit, those two slits there, that is the brake pad material. Notice I have a ton of brake pad life left. And if you see that second layer right there, that is the backing plate. That is a way of checking your brake pads, just to make sure when you hop on your road trip that you got good brakes too, okay? And very important to make sure you have. If you're not sure, if you're concerned, try that method to check and see what your brake pad levels are. And I wanted to wait till it got dark for this, and make sure that your lights work. Not only for you to be able to see, you want people to be able to see you, and you don't want to be pulled over on your road trip because you have a low beam out, or because you have a brake light out or something of the sort. And lastly, just have somebody step on the brake lights for you so that you can tell that they're all working, because if you don't, only way you'll be able to know is if somebody ends up pulling you over. So to finalize, we got our tire plug kit. We have, this is a breaker bar, same thing as this to break the lug nuts. We have our jumper cables, we have our jack, and we have our air pump. You know, I know you guys are like, Ultimate, Jesus Christ, this is a lot of stuff here. Listen, if you're ready, you ain't got to get ready, all right? So all I'm gonna say is that, you know, hopefully all this information was helpful to you guys. If you ever had to rely on AAA or anything like that, you know you can be sitting on the road for hours on end, and that is a nightmare. It can ruin your whole trip. It can ruin your vacation. Just make sure you're ready. You know what I mean? I hope this information helps you guys. Thanks for watching. Till next time, out. Bye.